Right, we are on episode 5 now, episode 5 of the question and answer session. And the next one is question 16 by the Johninator. Sounds like the Terminator. Are you called John? Because I think there's a picture of you wearing shades like the Terminator. So, anyway, the Johninator, you've asked quite a few questions here. Has there ever been a time where you wish you went into a job that paid more, had better hours, gave you a car, etc.? Do you mean like I'm trying to think, what do you mean, like a company car? I don't know, I suppose there are jobs that have better conditions. You know, I know with my bus driving job I get a free bus pass, you know, and you get another free pass as well, obviously, you know, if you've got, you know, say if I had a girlfriend, for example, she would have a free pass, or if I've got a flatmate, he can have a free pass, just things like that. So there are perks with my bus driving job, you know. But I would say, yeah, if I went into a job that paid more, better hours, gave you a car, I would suppose, yeah, the only jobs I wanted to do was actually bus driving and the entertainment acting. So I suppose with entertainment acting, that appeals to me because you get to go to different places and obviously act, you know, and that's quite appealing to me because it's not boring. And obviously, you know, obviously you've got to be a good actor. You know, obviously get through the casting and get picked. I mean, I've never done anything like that. So yes, I would say the other job would be the other job I wanted to do, which would be acting, entertainment. You know, obviously there's stand-up comedy, which I've never really done as well. So stand-up comedy I can still do. I could give that a go. But yeah, with the bus driving job, I suppose with the hours I'm doing, the shifts and everything, it's a bit awkward. You can't really do as much. You can't really do, say, maybe go to school on an evening, for example, because you might be doing some shifts. Or if you swap some shifts, you can get certain shifts, you can get earlies or middles or lates. I like to do a mix, to be honest. If I really wanted to do something else, then I would definitely be changing my shifts to make sure I could do something else. You know, I seem to fall into things, me. I'm a bit, I don't know, I'm a bit of a slacker, as you could say. I just fall into things. Never really been ambitious, I'll be honest with you. You know, I know members of my family that are ambitious, whereas I haven't been. But I'm more ambitious now than I've ever been, because I know I'm getting older, and I would like to gain more skills, basically. I'd like to read more books. I'd like to spend more time reading books that I've bought. You know, I just, you know, feel that my bus driving job, I'll be honest with you, if I ever was to leave my bus driving job, I could do it on my 20th anniversary, which would be what? I passed my test February 28th, I think, 2002. So say, for example, February the 28th, 2022, it would be 20 years since I passed my driving test, and that's just less than 5 years from now. And if I can just keep working on my YouTube channel and build it up, then eventually I could do something else with my life. That's only if my income at work is replaced by, for example, if I'm a successful YouTuber. So, you know, that's something I'd like to do around the world in 80 buses. I'd like to do that, where I drive buses, you know, like something to do with entertainment. Maybe like what you're seeing now, me talking into my camera phone and putting it on my channel. If you say, example, I had a camera crew follow you driving buses around the world, that would be fun. I'd love to do that. Drive a bus in India, you know, it might be an old clapped out bus, but it'd be hilarious. Maybe driving a bus in Sydney, you know, or a bus in New Zealand, you know, a bus in South America, you know, Chicago, New York, LA, Texas, Canada, Toronto, Banff, you know, Russia, Moscow, Warsaw in Poland, because I'm Polish. You know, just go to so many different places to drive buses. I know a lot of buses are the same now than they were years ago, but it'd still be cool just to drive different buses in different places. That's something I'd like to do, because that's unique for me, really, double-decker Anton. Anyway, you've asked me another question. What is the worst bus you've ever driven or rode on? What's the worst bus you've ever driven or rode on? I'll be honest with you, I was going to do that in one of my videos. At the moment, the Enviro, the old Alexander Dennis Enviro buses, which are not the ones I drove at Abellio, they were 09 plate. Anything 2006 to 2009 is a good bus. They're better with the pedals, with the acceleration and the braking. But for some reason, the let me see, how can I say this? I've got to be careful not to mention too much information. But basically, around 2010 and 11 to 2012, 13, the normal engined, I think the 6.7 litre Enviro buses, the Enviro ones, that are a nice looking bus, they're the worst bus. That is the worst bus I've ever driven and rode on, because it's such a modern bus and the braking's awful. When you try and brake, it doesn't brake, and then suddenly you kind of slams on and you jerk all the people. It's weird. And when you accelerate, it doesn't really accelerate, and then it kind of picks up and then it flies. It's a bit weird. It doesn't do exactly what you want it to do. So I hope that answers your question, John and Nater, because the worst bus I would say is the Alexander Dennis Enviro, the second version. The last versions, which are the normal engined, the hybrid versions are beautiful to drive. 2011, 2012 model up to 2014, that's beautiful. That's probably one of the best buses I've ever driven. And so that is down to the way it drives. The acceleration and braking is super smooth, it's powerful. I love them buses. Whereas the normal engine variant from around 2011 to 2013, that one is shocking. Worst bus to drive, awful. Another question you've asked is, what era of buses is your favourite? What era? I do like the era now actually at the moment. The hybrids are amazing. I know my colleagues in Huddersfield and Halifax, they haven't driven any hybrid buses, which I've been driving for 5 years in London. So if I took a hybrid bus up to Huddersfield, they'd be like, wow, it's impressive, seriously. I think there are some hybrid buses in Leeds, Volvo versions, which obviously similar ones down here in London. But I would say the best era of buses for me, the best bus era for me would be definitely in Yorkshire and Huddersfield, 1980s, 1990s, definitely. It's a shame because I didn't drive them buses then. I only drove the Atlanteans, but all the buses that I grew up with I wanted to drive, which I never did, except one, the Leyland Atlantean. And there was one Leyland Fleet Line 7221 I remember, which was in Halifax for some reason, just one left. And I never got to drive that. I think I started the engine, but I never got to drive it. It's a bit smoother to drive than the Atlantean, but it had one less gear. Was it 4-speed Fleet Line, whereas the Atlantean had 5-speed. So for me, the period of buses, the era of buses would have to be the Yorkshire Rider era. The Yorkshire Rider, which was obviously in Yorkshire. I'd love to have been a bus driver then. For me, that's why I like buses. There were so many different kinds of buses, single-deckers, double-deckers. Didn't really know much about the minibuses, to be honest, but it was basically the medium-sized buses, single-deckers, you know, and the double-deckers. I love them buses from that area. So the 1980s and 90s, definitely, for me. Obviously for me, with 1983 onwards, when I was 4, 1983, 84. 6300 was my favourite bus. 6300 Leyland Atlantean is the bus that made me want to be a bus driver, because it was like purple maroon, beautiful colour. And a double-decker bus. I like double-decker buses, and I liked kind of the purpley colour, that maroon colour. So that's why I loved seeing that bus and getting on it. That was what made me want to be a bus driver. And I did manage to drive that bus in Huddersfield, but it was just painted green. For some reason, they got rid of that colour, and it was just green. But it was the bus I drove. Right. Anyway, you've asked me another question. You've asked me, do you prefer driving buses in Yorkshire or London? To be honest, I was getting a bit fed up in Yorkshire. Just 10 years there, and I was starting to get fed up. I think it was just not just about buses, it was my life in general. I felt I wasn't going anywhere. So if there are some of you that are quite young, just think when you get to your early 30s, if you're not maybe married, or you know, if you've not met someone when you're having children that I'd planned, then you start to think, what's going wrong? And when you see all your school friends get married and have kids, it could get you down, you know. Don't worry, there's time in me yet. I'm not an old dog yet, you know. Some people get married when they're in their 40s, even 50s, you know. It depends on life, you know. I'd rather be in a position where I can look after someone, and to be able to look after my children. I don't want to be struggling financially, you know. So that's the whole point of me doing my YouTube channel, is I can see a potential to build my channel and still be a bus driver. That would be a perfect combination. So yeah, Yorkshire or London. I've loved driving buses in Yorkshire, in Huddersfield and Halifax. I loved it, even driving some to Bradford and some in Leeds as well, especially around the last of the Summer Wine area, which is the Comedy, the Old English Comedy. That was a great place to drive buses. All areas of Huddersfield, Colne Valley, the Home Valley, going to Halifax, Bradford. There was different rotas, Golka wasn't. I know Golka's. Some of the drivers said, "Oh, I've got to do like I think you had a Golka was a 35-minute journey or 35-40 minutes, and you'd have to do 7 or 8 of them, and then have your break, and then do another 5." That drove me nuts doing loads of them because it's too much repetition. It's boring, basically, you know. And then you asked me, I think your last question. Oh, actually, I'll say as well, London. I do like driving buses in London because it's London. It's amazing. You get to see places that you've learned about growing up as a kid in Yorkshire. It's amazing. See, it's starting to still getting dark. The park, I know, will be closing soon. The park will be closing soon. So, but anyway, let me carry on with your last question, John and Nater. Which gearbox is better, Voith or ZF? Voith or ZF? Sorry, I'm not very good at this. I've heard about ZF gearboxes. Voith, I don't know. I just like a gearbox that's not jerky. You know, a bus that changes gears smoothly and it's not jerky. That's the gearbox that I like. So, you know, Voith or ZF, I don't know. You're going to have to maybe let me know a bit more about what Voith and ZF is. I haven't really looked into that too much. Voith, I know Voith and ZF gearbox. I don't know what the difference is. We'll have to cover more about gearboxes. I don't really know about that. Anyway, I'll go on to. I hope that's answered your question. I've given you, blimey, 11 minutes. There's another 3 or 4 minutes left. Right, Felix Fire Security is subscriber. Sorry, is the 17th question. Felix Fire Security, he's called, he or she. He's asked me, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if you're male or female with the subscriber names, I don't know. But you've basically asked me, is there a procedure to be followed in the event of a bus breakdown? Example, tell passengers, call the depot, etc. Right, I think someone else put a comment saying it's covered in training. So yeah, please try not to answer any of the questions that the other subscribers. Obviously, I will get back to each and every one of you. Try not to, even if you know the question, please try not to answer the question because I know they want me to just answer the question. So yeah, is there a procedure to be followed in the event of a bus breakdown? Well, yes, there's a procedure for everything. Obviously, I do tell my passengers, and I call the depot. I've got an iBus system above my head usually, and this is in London. Press a button. Example, I press a green button. That's for me to contact my iBus. I wait for them to get back to me. They could get back to me within seconds, or it could be many, many minutes. Sometimes they can be that busy dealing with so many different bus drivers on the route. Some of the iBus controllers deal with 2 routes, and there could be, I don't know, 15, 20 buses per route, maybe more. Crazy. So you're dealing with a lot of drivers, so I know the iBus people are quite busy. So I know obviously you follow procedure, you call iBus, say this is what's happened. You can send, like example, like a text messaging system on this computer thing in the cab to say I've had an accident, you know, or something like that, you know, or the bus has got a problem but I can still drive it, or the bus has got a problem and I can't drive it. Just, you can send lots of messages to make sure that the operation, the bus driving operation is smooth. You know, you can send a message saying I need to use the toilet. So if you send it in advance, the iBus person knows that you're going to need to go to the toilet at the end, at the terminus, and allows you to go. You know, it's all about planning ahead to make sure it's a smooth operation. But yeah, the procedure to be followed in the event of a bus breakdown. Bus breaking down is, yep, I'm going to tell my passengers first. Bus is broken down. Let me tell the controller, and the controller could say there's another bus behind me, and we'll get that bus behind me, which could be, I don't know, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes behind me, to come and pick up the passengers on my bus that have broken down. So, the park's closed. Can you see a car? There. There's a car going up saying the park is now closed, please leave. Goes around for about 10 minutes doing this. So anyway, yeah, so there's a procedure. I always tell my passengers the bus is broken down. Tell them first because they get really annoyed and ticked off. Just say, I've got this problem, let me know what's going on, please stay on the bus. Or what they do is, in London, people just get off your bus. You just ask for one of them little tickets that you can use if your bus breaks down or whatever, like a curtailment ticket. You're not curtailing, but because your bus is broken down, you've got to pass a transfer voucher onto them to transfer onto another bus. So yeah, call the depot, and then usually the engineers come out if the bus is not able to move, which means you could be there for 1 or 2 hours sometimes, because the engineer could be fixing loads of buses around the whole of London. Can you see, look, there's a car, can you see that car? That's the car that's telling everyone by a loudspeaker to get out of the park. Look, the park is now closed, please leave at the nearest gate. It's quite funny, it just goes around for about 10 minutes and people slowly go. Anyway, I better go now. I hope that's answered your question. I'll have to do another question and answer episode another time. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Bye bye. Bye bye.